if Women's Alliance could save one woman's life the way that God saved Iron through Men's Alliance, it would be worth it. No matter how big it got, no matter how small it was, whatever. If it could save one woman, it'd be a win.
So we are here today to talk about something that I don't know if all of our listeners know about. And it's Women's Alliance. So whenever we go somewhere, I always hear somebody say, there should be a Women's Alliance. There should be like a women's version of this thing. And we're always like, there is. And here's who you call. So we've got Hannah Willis, call sign Crunchy.
Hello.
On the podcast today. So Crunchy is the founder and director of Women's Alliance. So we're here today to tell you all things Women's Alliance and let all you listeners know that there is, in fact, a Women's Alliance. If your wife is interested, and I guarantee you at every Men's Alliance tribe, somebody's wife is jealous.
That's
and
right.
wants a Women's Alliance. So, Hannah, first of all, welcome to
Thank
the
you.
podcast. And just share with us the story of how you started Women's Alliance.
It's quite the story, so I'll try to be as concise as possible.
No, give us the long version.
Yeah.
Okay, long version.
I love details.
Yeah, so Iron, who you'll know, of course, is my husband. And when we moved to Virginia in 2019, we moved to start over because we both just needed a clean slate. Try and leave all of our garbage in Colorado where we came from. And so we relocated. And it was really hard because we weren't connected to anybody. We had no community. We didn't have a church. And so we just started praying pretty fervently that God would bring us to a church that felt like home, that we would find friends that we actually wanted to be around and not just because our kids were playing together or something. And so we kept praying and praying, and COVID hit, and that deepened the isolation feeling. And we entered into what I call the 3-year valley, which was just the darkest point in our marriage and our lives, I think. And at one point we had, it was 2021, spring of 2021, and maybe it was 2020, yeah. Mm-hmm. And we had suffered a lot of loss. We had 2 friends commit suicide. Both of Iron's grandmothers passed away. And then we lost a baby. And Iron got to the point where he was ready to take his own life. And gosh, we were really struggling alone. And he cried out for help to the church that we finally got plugged into, and didn't share what he was planning to do, but just cried out that he needed godly men to come in and support him. And they pointed him to Men's Alliance. And so the next day, Delta Tribe was meeting. And so, he pulled himself up. He got to Delta. And Swipe was the first person that he ran into there. And gosh, thank you, Swipe, for being there, being that first face, because Iron came home that night and he just broke down on the back porch and he just said, I didn't know men like this existed. Mm-hmm. And he said, I met this guy and he didn't see my disability at the time. If y'all remember, I'm sure Iron was total, like
He was
practically.
in crutches.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
he was.
Like he could barely walk.
Yeah, he could barely walk. He had a failed back surgery, nerve pain. It was just a nightmare. So he said, he didn't see my physical disabilities. He just welcomed me. He hugged me. He loved on me. And then these men carried me through the workout. And that was just, I couldn't believe that. I was like, God, thank you. Something like, thank you for this. And so ever since then, Irons never missed a week of Tribe. And so not a single week.
Wow, that's a big
Every
statement,
single week.
yeah.
Yes, every week. So a few months later, we got pregnant again. So I was in my first trimester. And he came home from Tribe one night and he looked me square in the eyes and said, "You're starting Women's Alliance." And I was stunned because he and I don't have the kind of relationship where we tell each other what to do. Nobody likes that. Nobody responds well when you tell them what to do. But he told me. And so I said, okay. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was totally your idea.
No, that
so
was-
he thought
Yes.
that you needed to start this.
Yes.
Okay.
And he said, all these guys are sitting here saying their wives are complaining there's no Women's Alliance. You need to start this. And so my knee-jerk reaction was thinking that, okay, I can do that. Like, I'm a clinical leader. I've been in leadership for years. Like, I can start that. And I was thinking that if Women's Alliance could save one woman's life the way that God saved Iron through Men's Alliance, it would be worth it. No matter how big it got, no matter how small it was, whatever. If it could save one woman, it'd be a win. So as, I met with Goose to, talk through kind of what all that meant. And then what I realized is that, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start this Women's Alliance, and I think I've got this figured out, But then I started to get kind of scared because, like, Men's Alliance was kind of a lot to live up to. And so if I started this, which is such a good thing because Men's Alliance serves really as that head figure in the Tribe family altogether. You all have really blazed the trail for us, so thank you. But I got a little scared, like, what if I fail? That flesh creeps in. And so anyhow, a few months passed and, I recognized that I was going to be having a baby. I should probably, like, have a buddy to kick this off with me so that once I have the baby, this doesn't dissolve and fall apart altogether. And so Goosey had pointed me to a gal at the church who said yes, she would launch this with me. So we launched, and that was, there were like 30 women that first day. And I would have been satisfied with like 3.
When was your first Women's Alliance meeting?
So that was February 4th, 5th, 2022.
Okay. At that time, I want to say there were 6.
That sounds right.
6 what?
Tribes.
Oh, no.
Oh,
No, I could be wrong,
there wasn't very many.
but it wasn't many.
No, because
Yeah.
y'all were still in Virginia.
Yeah, that was right when we were about to take off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Y'all
on
had
the-
just gotten the trailer.
Yeah.
And I remember I was talking to Carrie. She was at Tribe one morning with me, and y'all had just gotten the trailer. And I was like, man, I want a trailer too. And she was like, let's get past the first year.
I want to just get past the first year. Okay, I think we were in the 20s. I think we were like 20 something at that point. So yeah, still very new, but we were starting to go to other states. We had just hit like North Carolina and
probably.
Pennsylvania, and we were starting to begin to think big. That was kind of like Thor was really coming into things, and like, hey, let's hit the gas on this.
Yeah.
So that was right when you started.
How did you find the chapel?
So, wild story, right? Because God works behind the scenes in ways that we don't see. We're a single income home. Aaron stays home with the kids. And so we knew that was going to be, a tight financial situation, but it's the best move for our family. But with that, Aaron had a lot of toys that he wasn't using that I was like, dude, we need a little extra cash. Like, can you sell some of this stuff that you're not using? Like really expensive skim boards and like beach things that we don't really go to the beach. It's like stuff like that. So he listed a couple of these high ticket items on Facebook Marketplace, and a guy from Chapel came and picked him up, and he had a Chapel sticker on his car, and they got to talking, and the guy invited us to come to service.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so we went,
Yeah.
and
And you loved it?
yes.
You didn't go anywhere else?
No.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a church in Colorado. Like, my mom's side of the family is a long line of Pennsylvania Dutch Presbyterians. Like, so I grew up in a Presbyterian church, and the church that I grew up in was very, if you have problems, don't bring those to church. Like,
Pretend you're fine.
handle them in your home.
Right.
And so that was my, like, what I thought all church people were like, right? That, so to me, it was kind of like, well, what's the point? This doesn't feel good. And I have a lot of garbage in my history. Like, I got in a lot of trouble, and, I was an addict and an alcoholic and a lot of things that, so when we found Chapel, I almost didn't believe that I could walk in and be my authentic self. I kind of felt like I was an imposter.
Right.
Like I had to hush all the things I'd been through. Right. And I just didn't want to do that. And so it took me some time to like warm up to the fact that, oh, okay, this is different. And Chapel being a church that says yes to groups. And so one of the things that when I said yes to starting Women's Alliance, when Aaron told me to do it, was I thought, okay, you know what? If this is gonna be my group, then I get to make the rules.
Right.
And so everyone who shows up is gonna feel a sense of belonging. Nobody's gonna show up here and receive the tone that we set as judgment. And so we did that day one.
How did you do that?
Yeah, so I remember when Goose and I were talking the night before we launched, we were just kind of checking in of, okay, you ready? You got everything you need? And one of the things Goose said to me was, whatever you do tomorrow, that sets the bar. And so you got to tell these girls, expect to lead. Like, I'm going to take it these first few weeks, but you're going to need to participate in the leading. So I was like, okay, got that. And then Goose had also told me, make sure that workout's hard. Because when Goose, when you and I were first talking about how to get this going, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I was like, do you think that I could just, like, we could walk laps around the church? Because it's like, well, you could, but how are you going to make that hard enough for the strongest person there? Well, I was pregnant. I was not interested in like rough and rugged workouts. And so I was like, okay, well, you're the expert, so I will do what you tell me to do. So we designed this really tough, rugged workout. Like the women were on the ground that first morning, which was awesome. But the other piece too was the devotion, setting the tone through that devotion of being unlike anything that you can find at a bookstore. Because I don't need to show up to Tribe if it's something that I can go to Barnes & Noble and get.
That's right. There's an element of men's and women's alliance that has to always be shocking. Like the workout, it has to shock you.
Yeah.
And the devotion has to shock you, right? Because of, and not by like some attempt to be shocking, but just because it's so real.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, that is shocking because we live in such a fake society that when people are just open and honest and authentic, that shocks people, right? And so that's one of the things that I think is so important. Going back to the workout piece, I've always thought in terms like this, like, if, for instance, if you had walked laps around the church, that's not something that tells well.
No.
Right? So, like, nobody tells their neighbor, like, hey, you got to come to this crazy group I just went to. Oh, what did you guys do? What we walked laps around the...
And they're like,
okay. So you've got to make it... I think about this all the time, and this is kind of like in our workout guide and stuff. We're like, listen, you can't just... make it something that every guy could do in their garage.
Right.
Right. Like if you're just doing 30 minutes of push-ups and something like that, like that's a good workout, but it doesn't shock anybody. But if you're like, we were bear crawling backwards up a hill trying to pull a sandbag with
a
us.
cinder block.
Yeah. You got to make it something that you can tell your neighbor, you tell a coworker, and it sounds like, dang.
Yeah.
I wonder if I could do that. I've never tried to do that, right? So I think that's a big part of the DNA.
I totally agree. Because, growing up in Colorado, like, nobody went on a, like, flat trail, basic hike on a Saturday afternoon.
Right.
And then after the weekend was like, yeah, I went on this amazing hike. No, like, Iron and one of our first things that we did together when we first met was we went up the incline.
I was getting ready to say that. I was getting ready to say the incline.
Yeah, we went up the incline, and it's a mile.
What is that?
Oh my gosh.
It's a staircase.
Yeah.
It's a straight staircase that just goes
Where?
as high as you can see
Pikes
up a
Peak.
mountain.
It's
Where
the
is it?
first leg up Pikes Peak.
Oh, okay.
And it's railroad tie stairs. And it's the incline because it's an incline straight up. So it's a mile, and it takes most people who are in great shape 45 minutes minimum. If you're in garbage shape, it takes like 2.5 hours. But when we got to the top of that, you have that view. You're like totally wrung out. You're exhausted.
Sense of accomplishment.
But it's so epic.
Yeah.
So you get to the top of something like that, and you're like, and this is the key with why the workout is so profound as an icebreaker within the tribe flow,
Yep.
is you struggle together. And so it's you against you with how far you push yourself, but it's you with the tribe in that total fatigue by the end of it. And then being able to be like, I did that. We did that. So after a weekend of doing the incline, it's like, man, we did the incline.
Yeah.
And that's what the
You want to
challenge should
talk
be.
about it. You want to tell somebody you did the incline.
because it's different.
Yeah.
It's not that basic flat surface hike, It's epic.
So a few years, several years before you started Women's Alliance, there was another attempt to start a Women's Alliance at a different church with a different woman, and she was a phenomenal leader, did a great job. And I don't know if you remember me telling you why I thought they failed. In my opinion, the reason why they failed was because she was such a good leader that she was doing everything. I think, her and I, she never came to me. We never had any kind of conversations about it. She just did her thing. And like your launch, huge first night, right? 30, 40 women, I think. But the problem was she was leading the workout and the devotion every week. And
it's too much.
that's only going to last for about 6 weeks, you know? So I remember telling you, hey, you got to say right off the bat, if y'all liked this tonight, then I need somebody to volunteer to help me lead next week.
Get ready.
That's right. Like, you better be passing around. And I tell guys this all the time when they're launching, like on night one or morning one,
Yep.
pass around a sign-up sheet to lead next week. Like, you got to set the bar at, I ain't doing this every week. And this is not my tribe that you're attending. This is our tribe. And we've got to all be rowing in the same direction.
And you don't want my devotion every week.
Right. We all want to
Like,
hear from different people.
Yeah.
So your first night, it was morning.
Yeah.
Your first tribe was Saturday morning, and you had 30 some people. Do you remember what kind of workout you did that was so awesome? What kind of stuff did you do?
Yeah, it was a circuit workout technically, but it was around the fire, and we integrated things like crawling under benches and Russian push-ups and things like that like got women on the ground, which is unusual.
It's wet.
Yeah, and it was
dirty.
February,
Yeah.
so it was like frost. The ground's kind of frozen underneath, and so it was just uncomfortable for a lot of reasons.
Did you swing hammers?
We did.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, because that was something that I really wanted to be sure was a tone from the very beginning, is using the unusual workout props. We flip tires, we sling sledgehammers, we lug sandbags, and bear crawling up hills and stuff. I led a 4-corner run around the chapel campus where you had to have your tire. This was a different time, not the first week, but you had to get your tire. Every single tribeswoman had a tire, and there were different checkpoints at each corner of things you had to do. But the final leg of that workout was you had to bear crawl that last stretch, which is like an eighth of a mile. That last
That's a long stretch.
You had to bear crawl that with your tire.
Oh, gosh.
So at that point, everyone's like,
You're pushing it out in front of you with your hands?
you could have no rules on how you could do it, but you had to have your tire.
Gotcha.
So I'm sitting there struggling. I've got it like in one of my, like one leg dragging
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
and then I switch legs and then pushing it. And finally, about halfway through, some of these women were like, I can't do this. And they're like picking up the tire and just walk the rest of the way. But that's what it should be.
Yeah, that's perfect, right? Because now there's like a thing to strive for.
Yeah.
Like, one day I want to be able to bear crawl that whole thing.
Yeah.
Right? Or something like
There should be no breath for side conversations.
that's a good litmus test. Like, if you're carrying on a conversation during the workout, it's too easy.
Yeah. And I always tell, as we've been launching new tribes explosively this year, which has been incredible, one thing that I always explain to the new girls is when you're designing the workout, if you or whoever signed up to do it ever has the thought, but is this too hard? The answer is no. People will always modify to make it easier if they can't handle it. Ain't nobody gonna modify to make it harder.
Right.
Especially women. And I love my girls, but that is the biggest obstacle with Women's Alliance is the workouts. They want it to be fun a lot of times.
Yeah.
Come on. No. Let's
That's
go.
like one of the first things I get asked, whenever anybody hears that there's a Women's Alliance. The next question, it's always going to be, do they do the same kind of stuff? That's the question, right? Like, do they do war cries? Do they flip tires? Right? Like, everybody wants to know, is this like a women's thing that just calls itself
Right.
Women's Alliance, or is this a Women's Alliance? Right. And I think you've done an awesome job of keeping the DNA,
Thank you.
that we created. It's totally like the women in Women's Alliance are absolute badass. You know, I drive by the tribe meetings on the way to ours, and you'll see like a group of a dozen women out there in freezing rain, doing burpees.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, dang, they are legit.
That's right.
And it's got a super tribal look because a lot of y'all have to bring like your little ones sometimes and work out. So that's a real tribe right there. A bunch of women out there around a fire working out, trying to keep track of the kids sometimes,
One of our
it's pretty unique. Yeah.
I mean, one of our leaders down in North Carolina at S16 Tribe, she has to bring her 2-year-old sometimes, and she'll be sitting there, and I've done this with my kids too. She'll be sitting there, she straps them on her back, and she's doing her squats, she's doing her squat jumps, she's jogging with him. You gotta go. I mean, you do it.
No excuses.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a lot of, some women, when they first come, and everyone thinks their group is unique, right? Like, you got to try my group, But a lot of times you don't really understand why tribe is unique until you do it. And so sometimes when new gals show up, they're, if there's rain in the forecast or whatever, they're like, oh, but we should probably cancel. And we're like, and if you don't feel like coming this week, that's fine. We'll see you next week. We're still meeting. Yeah. And it takes a little bit of time for them to buy into the fact that, oh, if we work out in the freezing rain or the snow or the sleet or whatever is occurring, it actually deepens the sense of belonging, because not only did you struggle through the workout together, now you're drenched and you're chilled to the bone. And by the time you get to the fire, you don't care. You don't care about anything. And that fire then serves as really a deep space to be able to shed all the vulnerabilities that you didn't feel you could shed anywhere else, because now you just don't care because you're so tired.
Yeah. And
good point.
The weather, the nights with bad weather, the mornings with bad weather, those are always the most memorable.
They are.
Those are the ones where, like, I feel guys especially, but I'm sure it's true with women. That's the one you don't want to miss, because you don't want to make it look like you missed because of the weather.
Yeah.
So, like, if you kind of just don't feel like going and the weather's good, you kind of might not go. But if you don't feel like going and the weather's really bad, there's a sense of, oh, I can't miss tonight.
I don't want to be that person.
Yeah, like one night I remember showing up at Charlie, and it was one of the worst. Is the worst weather I think I've ever been at a Men's Alliance for. It was like in the 30s and pouring rain.
Yeah, it was like sideways.
Just nasty, cold rain, and there were 17 men there. And I was like, oh, there was a crowd.
Yeah.
Right. Because nobody wanted to miss. Okay, so you launched that night, or that morning. I keep saying night.
It's okay.
What did it look like the next week? So
it's about the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did it ever dip from that big excitement of this new women's group launching and outdoor workouts and 30 people show up?
Not really. Not as far as engagement went. The only thing that occurred was right around summertime. We launched in February. Right as summer started to hit, that seasonal change of like, okay, kids are out from school. Now it's really hard for some women to show up on a Saturday morning because of family obligation. And so I recognized that, okay, this might be a time that we need to launch an evening tribe. And so we got an evening tribe going. And it was interesting because I expected to see like most of the women who couldn't come on Saturday mornings anymore come on Tuesday evenings. We launched E79 on Tuesdays. And it was actually a whole new crew of women who just Saturdays didn't sit right for them from the beginning. And so they showed up. So it just like it spread. That was the start of the spread.
Cool.
Yeah.
So the first week, I'm imagining you probably built the fire, led the workout, and led the Devo.
So we kind of cheated
Oh,
on the fire.
The fire's already going.
Yeah, the fire was already going because, Men's Alliance and
Yeah.
Women's Alliance bump up against each other. But
You led the workout and the Devo the first.
so
week.
and the Devo, what was really cool, I just want to draw this out. I set the bar with that first Devo by just shedding all of my stuff. I was like, this is who I am. This is everything I've been through, everything I've done. I mean, I broke all the rules about like 15 minutes of Devo and then conversation time. I just kept talking. But it was so profound because I closed up that Devo and I looked around and probably half the women were in tears. I was in tears. And this one gal, she walked up to me and she was crying. She said, I never would have guessed that that was your story. You don't look like you did any of that. And thank you for sharing, because I feel seen in what I've been through because of what you shared. And that was the most personal moment for me, because that God reinforced the why for me. Everybody wants a sense of belonging, right? So the people who don't show up, it's because they are probably worried that they won't belong somehow. And the people who keep showing up, it's because that sense of belonging. And that's all anybody wants. And so to feel seen in that way, I think is why the devotion is so critical, because you get that vulnerability along with, okay, and here's how God has pulled me up out of that, or here was my takeaway. And so it was really good.
What was one of your biggest concerns about, just like from the logistics of starting this thing and having to do a workout and a devotion, and being outdoors? As you did that first launch, what was one of your big fears or concerns?
So I, like most people, but like most women specifically, have that kind of underlying self-conscious fear of rejection. And so I had to get good with the fact that not everybody's going to want this right away or all the time. So that was my concern at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, I totally have that. I've identified with that so much. Is like, because we love it so much,
Yes.
I can't comprehend of a guy not doing Men's Alliance.
Yeah.
I'm like, how would you not?
We
How would
all
you?
need
Who
this.
doesn't need a 30-minute workout and a 30-minute devotion around a fire and a band of brothers? Like, you need this. Everybody does, right? But I've talked with guys and they're like, hey, I'm good. I've got this great Bible study. We've been meeting every Thursday night for 5 years, and I'm good with that. And then I've had guys. This is my favorite one. Is this is like totally honest, and I totally respect it. Guy came one time to Men's Alliance, and as soon as it was over, I was like, so what'd you think, man? And he goes, oh, that was terrible. I am never coming back. And it was so funny. I was like, really? He goes, yeah, that's just ridiculous. Like, it just nearly killed me, and absolutely not for me. And I was like, okay, thanks, man.
Appreciate
He didn't
it,
make
but-
up any excuses about a bad knee or, whatever. He was just like, no, not for me. So, like, I get that. That's hard. Is like, okay, it's not for everybody. I tried from the beginning. I don't know if I was very successful, but I was trying to not make people kind of cringe when they see me walking towards them in church on Sunday, right? Because I would want to go up and talk to somebody, and I can see they're like, oh no,
Here he comes.
here comes Men's Alliance guy.
He's going to
Gonna
be
try to
pressuring me.
Gonna try to get me out there, right?
They start to avoid you.
So I would come up to the guys and just be like, "Hey, man, how's your new job going, or how's the new kid going?" And I was trying to not be that guy, but I don't know if it was successful, but it's because there's so much of that. Because there's so much energy from you and me about this is what we do, this is what we love.
Well, and there's that. It's almost like being a clanging cymbal, like finding that balance of like, but you don't know what you're missing, and you just want to like shake it into people sometimes. And I tend to be a little not aggressive,
passionate.
But yes, that's the word. I'm passionate, and my passion for tribe can come off a little pushy.
Same.
But here's the thing, though, is that two things. So, you all know Ninja, his wife Core. She's Pat. She leads a tribe. She will often tell people when they come up with ideas, they're like, okay, well, if you share that with Crunchy, be ready to have a new job, because she's going to tell you.
Great idea. You should do that.
You should do that. Let me know when you're finished. But oh no, I forgot the other thing I was going to say.
Okay, so you're coming up on almost 5 years.
5? No.
3.
3.
You said you started in 22. Yeah. So you're coming up in February. It'll be 3 years since you started the first one. How many tribes of Women's Alliance are there right now?
We're launching our 29th on December 5th.
Holy smokes. 29th. And what states are you in?
We're in 7 states. So we're in...
and she named them.
Yes. North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New York, and Oregon.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Do we have tribes in all those states?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have not launched a tribe yet where Men's Alliance does not currently exist. Okay. So, I mean, truly an immense amount of gratitude for sharing space with us always.
I think we've got a really good model, and I'm sure you will launch tribes where we don't exist.
But then you'll launch where we exist.
Yeah, that's only a matter of time. But I think, the way it's been going has been really good. And I'd never thought of it in that family term, that familial kind of perspective on it. But that was neat hearing you say it. That got me thinking. And I'm looking at the map, behind you right now. You didn't say Texas, did you?
No, we have an inquiry in the pipeline right now for Texas.
Boy, that's only a matter of time.
Oh, I'm sure.
That's about to blow up.
Because them Texas folks.
Oh,
they're gonna jump right on.
That's gonna be awesome. All right, so you are growing way faster than we grew. Like, it took us years and years to get to, because, we were figuring it out from scratch. We didn't know what on earth we were doing for the first couple years. Yeah. And here you are, not even 3 years old, almost 30 tribes. Let's talk a little bit about kind of the structure of Women's Alliance. So you do call signs.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So how many times does a woman have to go?
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then she stands on the tire and does the whole thing just like us, right?
That's right. And she's got to be able to recite the Women's Alliance verse and the motto as well.
And what's your motto?
Valiance, beauty, endurance.
Valiance, beauty, endurance. And then you do something a little bit different than a coin. Tell us about that.
So we do a coin. But in order to get your coin, you have to be call signed, and you have to meet all the baseline requirements as Men's Alliance does. You have to start a fire, lead a workout, lead a devotion, and then flawlessly recite the creed in front of the tribe. We do have this nice... we have a necklace upgrade for the women who don't want a pocket coin, which is
so
fine.
you offer both. Okay. I just thought it was the necklace.
You only get one, though.
Yeah.
Right. Either or.
Yeah. It's an either or because it's your coin, right? Yeah. Like,
is it the coin just on a necklace?
Kind of. It doesn't look the same as the pocket coin. The pocket coin is very similar to the Men's Alliance spear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. I like the necklace.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, it's kind of cheating when it comes to like do you have your coin on you?
Well, we've got guys
yeah.
that are wearing theirs.
Yeah.
We've got guys that have like wired them to leather or drilled holes in them.
Yep. I've seen that. Yeah. But one thing that we have implemented for getting coined is you can't coin on demand, because
What does that mean?
So, yeah, great question. So if each local level tribe were to just coin when people are eligible, people may or may not rise to the occasion, right? They'll just, I'll do it next time. Okay. Well, what we've done now is if you're within a reasonable distance to an all-tribe event, and we define reasonable distance to be an hour and a half one way, then you have to get coined at all tribe.
Men, are you in the market to buy, build, or refinance a home? If so, you got to contact Chris Norwood, call sign Coop. He's with Town Bank Mortgage, and he's been doing this for over 22 years. He's licensed in 16 states, and he can absolutely help you get the house that you need to get. Contact Coop at Town Bank Mortgage. You can contact Coop at 804-439-3206. That's 804-439-3206.
So,
You mean like saying the creed to get your coin?
yeah.
You're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. You have to do the coining ceremony
Right.
at all tribe.
Okay.
So the reason for this is that it can feel very, this is my tribe. We are only this tribe. And it can easily lose that one women's alliance tone that we're all a tribe.
I like that.
And so it really bridges the gap between the local level tribes. Last weekend, we had Pennsylvania All Tribe. 124 women showed up.
Whoa.
We had 14 women get their coin that day. And when I tell you, the triumph that is felt and witnessed by the tribe's women for each woman who gets up on that on that tire to recite the creed, you can tangibly see every word of the creed as they speak it. They're living it. Like, they believe what they're reciting, and they jump off that tire, and it just deepens that sense of accomplishment and that stretch of discomfort that it took to get from call sign to coin.
Yeah, that's awesome. Our first ever coin ceremony was at the first ever All Tribes, and I went first. And I've said the creed 10,000 times, and when I stood on that tire in front of a lot of people at that All Tribes, it's amazing how much that like 2 foot difference of stepping up on the tire makes. You're like, it's way harder than it looks.
Yeah.
Right. And when you get up there, you're like, oh man. It was like a big, just the feel, I think, of having, whatever, 200 eyes.
I better not screw this
on
up.
you.
Like,
Yeah, that's
I'm
right.
the founder of this thing.
I gotta nail this. Right.
Did any of the 17 women in the this past time did or not the 17, but did anybody not get it? Like,
No, not this time.
Really?
We have had a few gals in the past that had to
happens
try
for us all
again.
the time.
Yeah. And that was a little uncomfortable the first couple times that happened, to have to be like,
I know.
you didn't get it.
Right.
You can try again next time. But we're clear.
Oh
in
yeah,
the messaging.
we do it all the time. So we're trying to. I mean, it's really already been normalized not getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting up there, messing up, saying, "Hey, try again next week." Good try.
See, because we've put it now to be, you have to do it at all tribe.
Yeah,
It's
you're gonna wait a couple months.
these girls,
Pressure's
they're
on.
Yeah, the pressure's on, because otherwise, like, if you don't get it, you got to wait a little bit. It's not a try next week thing. It's like all right, schedule up.
Yep.
Which all tribe are you going to be at?
I like that. All right, so you've got the call sign, the coin, or / necklace, and then tell us about your patch.
Yeah.
Your patch class.
Yep. So 3rd level of leadership is to strive for your patch, and you have to apply to join the patch class, and you have to have been in Women's Alliance for at least 6 months, and you have to really be demonstrating that you're living out the creed. So once your application has been submitted, we have a specific time frame. You know, you can't just ad hoc sign up for patch when you like. But it's an intensive apologetics 12-week program that then closes out through the patch event. No details to be disclosed, but it is epic.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how many classes? How many patch classes?
2.
And how many patch members do you have?
35.
35. That's incredible.
So
2
that's
classes.
35 women that could not comfortably answer questions about why they believe what they believe. And now they can.
Yeah. That is the most important thing we do in Men's Alliance. And, you know, that's what I love the most about what we're doing. And we have pictures on the wall over there of every guy in every patch class. And, you know, I think when I think about Men's Alliance, I think about it being like a funnel. And the weekly tribe, the workout and devotion around the fire, that's like the big end of the funnel. And our goal is to get people through Carry the Fire patch class.
That's right.
Down all the way through the small end, right? That's the goal. And so kind of in the middle there, you've got the coin, and bringing people in further and deeper is really the goal. So it's not just, you know, you don't just meet every week and just do that. It's like you're actually growing in your leadership ability and your discipleship.
Yeah. I mean, it's the Great Commission. We're all called to it. It's not optional. It's a directive. We're told, disciple and build disciples.
Yeah, go make disciples.
Yes. And so what for anybody who says, "Oh, I don't need that. I have my tribe." Like, okay, that's fine. What are you doing to disciple? Do you know how to answer those questions? These aren't things that I approach people with, but that's always sitting in the back of my mind. Okay, you might not feel like you need this, but what are you doing instead?
Yeah.
And, a lot of people say, like, I'm just not a leader. Okay, you haven't worked to become a better leader. Everybody can lead, and you will lead if you step up to do it.
You manage an entire household. You're a leader.
Yeah.
You lead your kids every day. You do something. You know what I mean?
It's just, are you going to say yes to do it?
Right.
And are you going to do what needs to be done to stretch? Nobody wants to push beyond
I was just thinking about that word stretch. And you can't grow as a person or as a Christian. You can't grow inside your comfort zone. No. And that's why it's really uncomfortable to grow. And we had our first guy ever withdraw himself from our patch FTX. He was like, I'm just not ready for this.
Wow.
I just can't do this. And I was like, all right, no problem. See you later. And I hope he comes back
again next time.
I think he probably will when he gets himself ready. But I think that shows us that we're on the right track,
right?
Because it is, whoa! Like I said, it's like shocking everything we do.
Yeah.
Carry the Fire. Week 1, guys come away from that first ambassador call rattled.
Totally.
Right.
Same.
And they're like, oh, same. I thought I knew. I've one of the best things I've heard feedback wise from a guy is he said, and this was actually at Start the Fire. And I mean, I'm like, if you're saying this at Start the Fire, you're really going to be blown away at Carry the Fire. But he said, how is it I've been in church for 30 years and I've never learned this stuff?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm with you. That's why we're doing this.
Like we're all, yeah.
That's why we're here.
I grew up in the church. My grandfather is a pastor. I did not know until several years ago. Why are you a Christian? Super basic question. So hard to answer if you haven't identified that for yourself. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the biggest shockers of week 1 of the patch class for us, and I'm sure for you too, is, we go around and we ask every single woman, why are you a Christian? And you get all these really long-winded.
You get the story of how they became a Christian.
Yeah, and very emotional, right? The feelings-based stuff.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we really spend the better portion of the patch class completely shifting that mentality of this is not an emotional response.
It's analytical.
Yes, this is objective. What are the facts? Why? You can, now, once you can answer those, you can have a follow-up coffee date
That's right.
anytime and tell your testimony and your story.
Yeah, otherwise it's like, that's cool for you. I'm glad you had that emotional experience.
Right.
I haven't had that, and I'm just fine without it.
And as I suspected, God forgot about me.
Where do you go?
Yeah, like God didn't give me that core shaking experience, so I guess he doesn't care about me.
Right.
Right.
No, that's so good. So, all right, tell us your mission statement. What's the Women's Alliance mission?
Fortifying women to be the wives, sisters, and leaders that God created us to be.
That's good.
It's good. What's your verse?
Esther 4:14. Perhaps this is the moment for which you were created is the
I love
abbreviated
I love
version.
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your creed is I'm an uncommon woman, or I'm a common woman with the uncommon desire to serve my husband.
Yeah, yes, yes, that's right. Iron would agree that is the opening line.
I will keep myself physically in shape.
Yes, that's right. I will ensure that I am in the kitchen always to prepare you meals.
What is your creed, though? Is it similar to ours?
It is. It's very, would you like me to recite it? Oh, I am a steadfast woman with an uncommon desire to succeed. I will keep myself honest, spiritually aligned, and morally straight. I will lead and be led, and in the absence of leadership, I will take charge and lead by example. I am not too proud to ask for help. I belong to a tribe and do not struggle alone. My past failures do not define me. When the world knocks me down, I will get back up every time. Faithfulness to family and devotion to God is my destiny. I will be vulnerable and finish strong.
Man, that's awesome. That's so cool.
Cool.
We're quizzing her on everything.
I know.
Quizzing her on everything.
I know, right?
What's your verse? What's your motto? What's your creed?
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah, that's so
push-ups
cool.
can you
I know
do?
people listening to this, needed to hear that. So I'm really glad that you said that. So tell us a little bit about what's your vision? Where do you see Women's Alliance looking like in, like, let's say 5 years?
Yeah, man. So my big vision is that every woman will have reasonable access to experience the impact of tribe. To me, reasonable is an hour and a half away. So that's my vision.
And you are a 501c3?
Yes,
Right? And so it's women'salliancetribe.com.
correct.
You know, if you're listening to this, you want to send this episode to your wife or whatever, find out how you can get involved. women'salliancetribe.com, just like men'salliancetribe.com.
Correct.
And I know I was just looking on there this morning. You've got all your tribe locations in all of your 7 states.
That's right.
On there. And I'm sure in just a few months, it's going to be like 20 states at the rate you're growing. And I see you are wearing some awesome Women's Alliance swag.
Your hair out of the way there. There we
yes,
go.
exclusive merch.
That's
Women's
awesome.
Alliance. It too could be yours if you join the tribe.
Very cool merch. I like your logo.
Thank
and,
you.
That's on your website too.
That's right. Well, our new website with the shop will be.
That's right. You
all
said you
awesome
got a new one
stuff.
about to get
Yeah,
launched.
yeah.
And so shout out there to Stack, who's, his company, Seabird, is building our website and yours.
Well, Granite.
Yeah, Granite.
Doing ours, but yes, same modeling, both a part of Men's Alliance. And so it was really, just side note, we really wanted to ensure that we were utilizing within our tribe family to build this website because the vision and the mission are already understood.
Yeah.
And so there's heart behind that. And so I don't think people always see that there's so much heart that goes
That's
into
a great
growing that
point. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, it's awesome having a tribesman do our website.
Yeah.
Because anytime you kind of get an outside source to do something, they don't really get it. You know? It's like they don't really have the vision for what you're doing. It seems, a lot of times when you have a tribesman who's good at what they do and you ask them to do it for Men's Alliance, they're like, I know exactly how it should look and what it should do and how it should be because they understand it.
We use a tribesman up in Pennsylvania, his local printing shop. He does all of our merchandise. And so same thing, right? We're trying to locally, internally source as much of our stuff as possible.
All right. So last couple questions for you. What is one of your biggest obstacles that you're working on between where you are now and where you want to be? What's a big obstacle for Women's Alliance?
So in order to be where I want us to be, we need women to say yes. So, yes, right now we have 29 tribes in 7 states, but if there's not a tribe near you, step up and step out of your comfort zone and let's get a tribe going. Yeah. But with that, women say yes in a lot of other areas of their lives, and being the only leader for a tribe is a lot. And so we use a co-leader model. It takes 2 women to launch a tribe. And it's because we want all of our local level tribes to have no expiration date. So we're looking at sustainability and longevity for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And that really just can't fall onto one woman who is most likely also a mother, maybe a wife, probably also working. And so sometimes a woman will step up and is ready to launch a tribe, but she doesn't have anyone to launch it with. And so those are some of the obstacles. But we have a very supported launch structure at this point. So when somebody steps up and says, yes, I want to launch, but I don't really know how to do it, we don't just send them a packet and say, okay, here's the information, go ahead and launch. No, we have a very comprehensive...
You're walking them through it. You're helping them.
Yeah. Yes, we walk them through it every step of the way. We meet with church leadership with them if it's going to be hosted at a church. We ensure that there are tenured tribeswomen boots on the ground at the time of that tribe launch so that as questions come up, which they inevitably always do, that there's somebody supporting that.
Did you do that with Oregon?
Yes.
Somebody went to Oregon for that launch?
You bet.
Oh, man, that's
Absolutely.
awesome.
And let me can I tell you about what happened with Oregon?
Yeah.
This is amazing. So we got the inquiry to launch in Oregon. I think it was back in April. And 2 women, they were ready to go. They were really excited. Well, one of the women, so we had booked plane tickets and accommodations for 2 of our local tribe leaders here in Virginia to go out and support that. Well, after all that was booked, one of the women who was going to launch, she had to step back due to family dynamics and needs in the home. And so we're praying with this other woman, like, okay, we're going to pray. God's going to bring the right person at the right time. Well, we worked with church leadership. He was spreading the word, like, we want to get this going. Who's going to step up and co-lead this tribe? Well, nobody came forward. So we still sent our 2 girls out there for what we called a soft launch date. where we pretty much just said, okay, here, we're going to do a little trial. We're going to hold tribe, and you guys can see what it's all about. And then we can continue planning and trying to find the right person. Well, Babus and Care Bear were the ones we sent out there. And
what was the first call sign you said?
Babus.
Babus?
Yes. And it's a foreign word. It's Indonesian, means something. I can't remember what it means offhand. But anyways, so they show up, and these women start trickling in, and they communicated the need before they started the workout of like, hey, in order for this to officially launch and be available every Saturday moving forward, we need a second woman to step up. And this one woman, she comes over and she goes, I'll be praying, but I'm not that person, but I'll be praying. Guess what happened? End of tribe, end of devotion.
She said that before it started.
She said that before. Yeah. They did the workout, devotion, closed in prayer, did the creed, and then that woman came back over. She said, all right, well, Holy Spirit's pushing me. I guess I'm going to be leading this tribe. She stepped up, and they've been meeting ever since. So that was in July. That
really speaks to just the power of it.
Yes.
You know, that in 60 minutes, somebody goes from it ain't me to I'm your woman.
It's me.
Right.
Yeah.
Are most of your tribes at churches?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Share with us what's one of your best, because I know there's a ton of them. What's one of your favorite wins or victories in Women's Alliance? What's one of those stories where when you're having a bad day, you think about, this is why we're doing this?
So for me personally, it's that sense of belonging, that if I feel a sense of belonging, if you feel a sense of belonging, we'll do just about anything as long as we feel like we belong. And so I know that our mission will be fostered and achieved among our tribeswomen if that sense of belonging exists. And, you know, there are several women who I've witnessed their growth over the course of just the last year, where the first day that they showed up at Tribe, they were crippled with anxiety, would not speak, didn't really participate in anything. They definitely didn't say anything during devotion. And now are leading tribes, moved through Patch, and are able to confidently defend their faith.
Wow.
And so to witness that, so for anybody who says, that's not me, I'm not a leader, you're wrong. You're so wrong. So it's just to watch that transformation, to go from completely unable to engage in anything, because that isolation presses in so deep to the point where we as people just expect that's just how it's going to be for me.
Yeah.
That's how I felt for so long.
Yeah.
Before we had Tribe in our family, we felt like both Iron and I had resigned to the fact that we're just going to be alone.
People always tell themselves such limiting messages.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, I'm not a runner. I'm not a reader. That's a common one. Oh, I'm not a reader. Why? It's like, why? I'm always thinking, like, why are you telling yourself that?
Yeah.
I'm not a leader. I'm not very outspoken. I'm not very. It's like, why do you keep telling yourself this? You can literally become a leader. You can be a reader. You can whatever. You know, we don't know a lot of times what we're capable of.
It's that internal critical spirit, you know,
and those messages keep us on the sidelines.
What they're really saying is, these things don't come naturally for me.
These things scare me.
They scare me. They don't come naturally for me. So it's like, I'm not a leader. I'm not a natural born leader. Leadership can be taught. You know, it's actually a skill that you can learn.
Yes.
Same with reading, everything. Like, I don't enjoy reading. So, so that's why I'm not a reader, you know?
Yeah.
You can learn to read and learn to like reading. The more you do it, the more you like it.
Well, and it's all based on experience too, right? Nobody just out of the womb hated reading, hated leading. There was something that occurred in everybody's walk, whether it was when they were a child or a teenager or an adult, that created that path in their subconscious that just they don't want to go in that direction anymore. That can always be modified, but you have to actively pursue that modification. So these girls that show up, they're like, oh, I don't really work out. It's like, okay, well, then that's going to be the part that you step out of your comfort zone because you can be leading a workout.
Yeah.
And same with devotion. Like I don't really do well speaking in front of others, but I can run a marathon. It's like, cool.
Or I hear a lot, I don't have a good testimony. I don't have a moment where, you know, I was this way and now I'm that way. I was just kind of, I'm the type that was, you know, me, like I was raised in the church. My family's, you know, my dad's a pastor. I came to Christ at a super young age. So I don't have that real attractive story where, you know, I was whatever and in like my 20s and this happened to me and then Jesus came into my life, where it's like a real catchy kind of a story. Like other things have happened, but so I think people fall into that. I don't have a gotcha story testimony, so I can't, anything I share isn't attractive to people. It's boring.
That's the enemy though, right? Because the enemy wants us to think that there's nothing valuable we can bring to the table. And that's why why the last line of the Women's Alliance Creed says, I will be vulnerable and finish strong, is because when you come around the fire and state those vulnerabilities, as small or as big as you think them to be, somebody else will see that as a survival guide for them.
Right.
On how to move through the season they're in. And so it's, whether you had some huge, profound transformation or not, the people who didn't have a huge transformation but still struggle with those same things that you've struggled with, they need to hear that.
Yeah. A testimony is more than just, this is how I came to be a Christian.
Yeah.
It's, you know, your whole life of what struggles you've been through and how you've made it through.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not just your testimony, it's just your struggles.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the vulnerability part, that is leadership.
Yeah.
Just like hearing you say that, just what popped into my head was the scene in Saving Private Ryan where like everything's unraveling and he's losing control of his men.
Yeah.
And they're all fighting with each other. And one of them's about to execute a prisoner and another one pulls a gun on one of the men. It's just like, and he's just standing there watching his team unravel. And you know what he does in that moment is he, for the first time, he tells them all about his past
story
before the war. He says, hey, what's the pool up to? And like everybody's like, what? And he goes, I was a school teacher before joining the Army. He's like, I taught high school English. And everybody's jaw drops, right? Because he decided to share, make himself vulnerable, tell something about his past. And that's just a leader. He knew when to do it.
Right.
Right. And he had held on to that card. He had played that card at just the right moment.
Yeah.
But I do think vulnerability is such an important part of leadership that doesn't often enough get mentioned. Right. And I remember that's one of the things that I told you about when you launched, about setting that tone when on night one or morning one, when a tribe launches and the leader right off the bat is vulnerable, it communicates to everybody, this is the kind of group this is. Right. And some people I've seen through the years they're not ready to get that real and vulnerable, and it freaks them out. And usually we don't see those people again.
Yeah.
So it is shocking, to use that term again, when you see the leader be vulnerable and be real.
It's a super attractive part, at least to me. When I see somebody do that, I'm like, okay, this guy understands.
He's real.
Because you can't just be like, all right, everybody share their most intimate secrets and details with me. Go. It's like you have to I call it putting some skin in the game. Like you have to invest in the people that you want to invest in you. Like it's not, you got to build that trust by sharing and being vulnerable with them. You have to be the first one to take that step.
That's right. And you have to lead alongside your people. It comes down to that. Nobody likes being told what to do, and so if any of us showed up to Tribe and said that, okay, share all your secrets, it's like, well,
this is what we mean by lead by example.
Right.
Yeah. You don't tell them to be vulnerable. You just do it.
Yeah.
You just set the example and then others will follow. Yeah, you don't tell them what to do. You just demonstrate it.
And it creates that safe space, which is really what has held people back from being vulnerable in the first place, because they got burned somewhere along the way. And all the walls went up.
Right.
And so, that fire, people always say things like, what happens in Vegas, blah, blah, blah. No, really? What happens at fire?
The fire stays
there. Yeah. That's a steel vault. And our Tribe's people, they stand by that anything.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. What is your closing comment to any woman listening to this? What do you want to tell her?
Find the tribe or start the tribe you didn't know you needed.
There it is.
How much does Women's Alliance cost?
It's free.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Women'sAllianceTribe.com. Check it out, guys. Thanks, Crunchy.
Thank you
for being here, and we'll have you back on. And in like a couple of days, when you're at 150 tribes,
yes, perfect.
next week.
It's wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
To find out more about what we're doing and to join us on our mission, go to men'salliancetribe.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a 5-star review.